Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and I've just done the live about the police report, and I just want to do this rant quickly. I thought about not doing it because I'm tired, obviously, but I had to do this rant. I'm really angry about this. I mean, this is a good, proper rant. Um, so I don't know if I did do a video on this revolting man in my eyes, this Oscar Pistorius. I don't know if any of you know about the case of Oscar Pistorius, but Oscar Pistorius he's famous for being a runner, a sprinter, but he has no legs. He runs on I don't know what they call those things. So they're like special oh gosh, what they called it might be in here anyway. Anyway, he was a famous runner, a Paralympic champion, Oscar Pistorius, and he was famous, and he had this beautiful girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. I really don't know how these twonks. What do these lovely women see in them? It always seems to be a lovely person gets attracted to a twonk because he's like a privileged little shit in my eyes. I watched the trial from start to finish. He's a horrible man. In my eyes, I don't even want to just say my eyes. That's what I think. The rants of the day, they're for my opinions, and people will either agree with me or they won't. And he, on Valentine's Day, things happen on Valentine's Day, don't they? I've always said it. He says that they're South African, they live in South Africa. He says he thought he heard someone in the bathroom, and he thought it was a robber because there is a lot of crime in South Africa. And he shot through the door. He let go, shooting through the door, and Rena was in there, and she died. She was shot. Now, when it came to the trial, so it's Valentine's Day 2013 at his home in Pretoria, South Africa. This happened 11 years ago. And he said he fired his gun through the bathroom door after mistaking her for an intruder in the early hours of the morning when he was half asleep. So he's 37 now. I think he's been in prison for 11 years. He's rich, you see, of course. He's rich. You'll find that Mark Williams Thomas is championing him. God knows how much money's exchanged hands there because, he likes to be in on these big cases, and he's probably going in his next book or whatever. But he's going out on parole in January. He's been released on parole till the 5th of December 2029, and he'll be subject to conditions. He won't be able to leave Pretoria. He must attend therapy for anger issues and gender-based violence issues, and he will do community service. Now, this man was a gun fanatic. Apparently, he came out at the trial. He would regularly take his gun out and start shooting around and everything. So anyway, the prison spokesman says parole does not mean the end of the sentence. It's still part of the sentence. It's because he's a rich white boy. I tell you, I bet the native South Africans don't get parole like this. If they've done something similar to what he's done, I bet they don't. It only means the inmate will complete the sentence outside a correctional facility. So he's still, what was he trying to say? He's still in prison, but now he's going to his luxury home or his parents' luxury home or whatever. Anyway, can you imagine how Rena's mum feels? So Miss Steenkamp's mother reacted to the parole by insisting that Pistorius intentionally killed her daughter. My dearest child screamed for her life. I believe he knew it was Reeva. Of course he knew it was Reeva. He knew. He was angry. He's an angry, entitled rich white boy. That's what he is. And he knew. He got the hump with her. They'd had regular arguments, etc. So the former athlete is expected to spend parole at his uncle's mansion in a wealthy suburb, but he's still completing his sentence. Of course, it's just like being in prison. And this was the same place he stayed during the trial. Oh God, I watched that trial. I watched the whole trial, and he's just awful. Awful. So he was crying, he was upset. He was upset for himself. He wasn't upset for Reeva. You know, maybe he did love her, I don't know. But anyway, the prosecution argued that the killing was premeditated, and he shot his model girlfriend after she fled to the toilet following around. Now, I could get really upset here because I'm just thinking of her. You imagine that's her having a row. She runs to the toilet, locks herself in the toilet because she's not sure what he's going to do to her. And he picks up his gun and empties his gun into the bathroom. She would have been terrified. Apparently, she was screaming for her life because the neighbours heard her. It's just not true that he thought it was an intruder. So he's a liar as well as everything else. So he was initially not found guilty of murder and instead convicted of culpable homicide, which, like manslaughter, he was sentenced to 5 years initially in 2014 and released to house arrest. And a year later, the conviction was overturned by the Supreme Court of Appeal and he was found guilty of murder. And they ruled that he should have foreseen the possibility of killing someone when he fired shots into the bathroom. Duh, it's not rocket science. You wake up in the middle of the night, you hear a noise in the bathroom, your girlfriend's not lying in the bed next to you. Oh, it must be a robber. You know, where's Reeva? Oh, it don't matter, it must be a robber. Anyway, so he was given 6 years in 2016, which was later increased to 13 years and 5 months after it was deemed shockingly lenient. I'm telling you now, if he was a poor black man, he would not have got a lenient sentence like that. It just wouldn't. You know, money talks. Anyway, they denied him parole in March, but now they've heard him again. And he's coming out. He's coming out in January. How must her mum feel? How would you feel? You know, a lot of us, we've got daughter. Well, I haven't got a daughter. I've got a son. I'd feel exactly the same way if it was, you know, a son. She said she wasn't opposing the parole and she didn't attend the hearing. Oh, because she said, I simply cannot muster the energy to face him again at this stage. So that's the problem with parole hearings and that. If you go and fight it, which she could have probably done, but she's probably just got no energy left. You know, every year these families have to go to that parole. And as you get older, it must get more difficult to just face it all over again, hear it all over again, live it all over again. So she said, I do not believe Oscar's version that he thought the person in the toilet was a burglar. In fact, I do not know anybody who does. Oh, Mark Williams Thomas thinks it was June. Mark Williams Thomas believes him. My dearest child screamed for her life. I believe he knew it was Reeva. And she said she wasn't convinced he'd been rehabilitated, as rehabilitation requires someone to engage honestly with the full truth of his crime and consequences. She was a model. What did you see in him? Honest God, what did she see in him? I don't mean because he was disabled or whatever. I mean because he was a twonk. You see him talking. He's a narcissist twonk. So Reeva's father died in September, aged 80. Well, good, because he didn't live to see this twonk come out of prison. Anyway, Pistorious met with him inside jail in 2022 as part of a restorative justice program that brings offenders and victims together. So he went from a global, if you don't know this story, he was a global star. I mean, he was like a hero because, you know, it was fantastic what he was doing. He lost his legs. I don't think he was born with no legs. I think he lost them when he was very young. It may say this, but he was very young. So, you know, which is very sad and that, but yeah, maybe he grew up with some sort of inferiority complex. I don't know. So the decision for a second parole hearing came after his lawyer took his case to the Constitutional Court over errors in calculating when he'd be eligible for parole. There he was in the courtroom. He took his legs off in the courtroom with sympathy. He was demonstrating how he walks without them. So yeah, he was born in 1986, and at 11 months old, his legs were amputated below the knee because of a congenital defect. He was known as the Blade Runner. So, while locked up, his father said his son had held Bible classes for other prisoners. However, there have also been glimpses of trouble, including a row over a phone that left him needing medical treatment. That's a shame. Anyway, so there you go. That's my rant of the day. Oscar Pistorius in January. He's a free man, but well, they say he's not a free man because he's got to go and live in his uncle's luxury villa. So he's not quite a free man, but you know, shame. Okay, that's it. Thank you. I'll see you tonight. And may your God go with you. Oh, and remember to always live and love wisely and stay away from Oscar Pistorius because he'd be looking for someone probably.